Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Mama said there'd be days like this, Kev. Mama said there'd be days like this.
I don't think she described days quite like this.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, welcome to tonight's edition of The Block, the Shot, the Stop, our Cleveland Cavaliers podcast brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Tim Daniel. He's Kevin Lynch. Skylar Webker does have the night off tonight. So Kevin and I are unfortunately here to provide with you with the insight of tonight's they lost by 20 points, and it wasn't that close. It is saying something. So it was a 134-114 final. But, Kevin, I'm going to start here. First quarter, 32-14, Oklahoma City. Second quarter, 43-35, Oklahoma City. Third quarter, 44-32, Oklahoma City. Fourth quarter, when it was all said and done, the Cavs would get the 18-point advantage there. And that's the only reason they lost by 20 points. But
Skylar would be talking about Tristan Thompson's plus minus tonight if he was here.
Should we do it in his honor? Should we just go ahead and flat out just say, like, Tristan Thompson, way to go with your
sure.
Your plus 18, way to go. Probably the first time you've had a plus 18 since you played with LeBron in Cleveland, not in Los Angeles for that weird postseason. But I know you might have that Memphis series, but so
where do you want me to start? I got a lot of hot ones for tonight. And let's preface this with there's been very few things to complain about this Cavs season. And yes. On this podcast, and even me has been mostly rosy and happy. And even when at the few times that they struggle, we kind of write it off and everything tonight. I don't think we should just write tonight's game off as it wasn't their night or anything. I think we should dig into it a little bit.
I completely agree, especially considering Sunday they had that loss to Indiana where it wasn't necessarily a similar way they lost, but the performance, the effort looked pretty close at the end. And I know they won on Tuesday in Indy, which was great because I was there. But other than that, I mean, realistically, 2 or 3 games, they have looked like lost defensively at times. They have looked like lackadaisical defensively. I mean, look, we're not going to take anything away from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He scored 40 tonight, and he was awesome. And he's always awesome. There's a reason he's the leading candidate for MVP right now.
He's the best scorer in the league, hands down.
Absolutely. But also, to that same point, I mean, there's like Kenny Atkinson conversation decisions he made in this game that we got to talk about. There's player effort we got to talk about. I don't know, man. Where do you want to start? What do you feel? What are you feeling?
All right. So let's reference the last 3 games because you kind of started there, right? I will say I'm significantly more upset about this loss than the one about the Pacers. And I'll tell you why. Like Sunday night, that was you had the worst shooting night of the year. Like they still had pretty good effort, in my opinion. They still played pretty good defense. I do think the Pacers are one of those teams that I don't know if they're a bad matchup overall, but they got a couple guys that are a bad matchup for the Cavs. We talked about that. Skylar and I did on Sunday. You all did as well on Tuesday. I'm disappointed in this game. I'll start with honestly, I'm going to start with Kenny Atkinson because he's been a revelation this year. He's been incredible. Like he's won both coaches of the month.
Deservedly so. Yeah.
But tonight, and this is something that I prefaced a little bit on Sunday that I didn't like that he did in the game, and then he went even more extreme tonight. He tried to play matchups with this roster to match the opponent instead of doing what the Cavs do best. And what I specifically mean is on a night where the Thunder did not have Chet Holmgren or Isaiah Hartenstein, he decided to basically bench Evan Mobley and especially Jared Allen when the game was still competitive. I'm not talking about the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter when they pulled everyone. Yeah. In the second quarter, how many shots do you think Evan Mobley and Jared Allen combined to take in the second quarter?
2.
1 shot, and they played a combined 5.5 minutes. And I looked it up and I'm like, how different is this versus normal? And in the second quarter of games, those two average about 17 minutes played combined. So he cut their minutes by about a third on a night where the Cavs should have been doing everything to exploit the biggest advantage they had, and that was inside.
Sure.
And it started out great. Jared Allen had the first 6 points, or 6 of the first 9 points, 11 being set up by Garland. Everything was great. And after that, like after Jared Allen had scored the first 6 points, he had 7 the rest of the way. Mobley only had 5 for the whole game. They're, about 16, 17 points below their average. Again, some of that's affected by the fact that they sat out the whole fourth quarter in this blowout. But that's where my disappointment starts. And there's obviously plenty to go around, but I made the bet of the day, and that even when I did it earlier, it was a bet with the heart instead of the head. I honestly thought this would be an extremely tough game for the Cavs after beating OKC next week, being in their building. Wasn't shocked by a loss. I was definitely shocked by the way they were just absolutely manhandled.
Yes. So I think we could have all accepted a loss here because it's OKC, right? You just beat them, like you said. They are the best team in the West. They're probably going to play in the finals. If I had to put money on a team to play in the finals, it'd be them. Playing Cleveland, of course. But my point being that, yeah, you can live with losing to the Thunder. No call, no showing. Kev, the finals, the first quarter, it was 32-14 when the buzzer sounded. At one point, it was 12-12.
Yeah.
I mean, it was flat out and it was like the only person who looked comfortable for most of this game was Darius Garland. He was the only one that looked like he was liked having the ball in his hands.
I will say, just a side note, Jared Allen played really well. The problem was Jared Allen barely played. He had 13 and 7 in 16 minutes played. You average that out to his normal 30, 32 minutes. You're talking about a 26 and 14 game. That's amazing. So I didn't have any problem with the minutes that Jared Allen played. I did have a problem more with the amount he played.
Yeah. And for the record, hit all 7 of his shots if you count free throws. So kudos to him on that. But yeah, I mean, it looked like, Garland and Allen were the only ones that really looked like they wanted to even be on the court in stretches of this game. Another bad shooting game for Mitchell. So, we've written off a couple of them. I'm still not going to sit here and be like, oh no, Donovan Mitchell's not scoring. Like he just had a hell of a game in Indy on Tuesday. Not going to freak out about that.
I'm not going to freak out, but let's stop there for a second and talk about Mitchell, and then we'll go into the rest. I'm not going to freak out either. Like Skylar kind of asked me that question the last pod I was on, and like, are you worried about Darius Garland? And I said, Donovan Mitchell. And I said, no, a guy with his track record, he's going to have to struggle for 7 to 10 games before I really start worrying that maybe something's wrong, whatever it may be. He has been somewhere between bad and below average 5 of the last 6 games.
Yes.
He's only scored above, you referenced the game Tuesday night. He was great. It's the only game he's scored above 20 points the last 6 games he's played. And this is a guy who routinely averages 25 plus points a game per season. So I would say I'm not worried about Mitchell yet, but I'm a couple games away from being.
Yeah. If he has a stinker in Minnesota on Saturday, we might be having a different conversation, but I don't suspect that's going to be the case. Maybe that's just me being Tim and being optimistic, but I don't suspect that's going to be the case. Yeah. So, excuse me. I have the game up on my iPad today because I'm watching to make sure my daughter is okay on the nanny cam. So, excuse me, see me looking down. It's not that I'm being negligent. Yeah, man. I think one of the things that really jumped out to me for sure wasn't just, it felt like rebounding was brutal. I'm going to go on a long thing about the points off turnovers here in a second, where it just felt like they weren't getting back, but it looked like they didn't even want to grab a board at stretches of this game. It looked like if Oklahoma City missed a shot, they were letting second chances happen, smooth sailing, no problem. And then on the other end, it's when they're missing shots, there's no chasing the long rebounds like we normally see from the Cavs. There's no Mitchell and Garland grabbing at the top of the key to just fend off a fast break. None of that. And that's the thing. I praised Donovan Mitchell so much for long rebounds a couple weeks ago when you and I did a show together, and that wasn't there tonight. And look, I know there's going to be people out there, and look, we're very obviously positive people. They're going to say, like you said, like, hey, it's just a bad night. Like, no, these are the nights where, the people who are calling the Cavaliers still a regular season team, this team that they're going to have a really cool regular season record, but they're not going to last in the playoffs. These are the nights they're going to use as evidence to prove that argument. We don't agree with that argument. We still think this is a very, very good basketball team, and we still believe in this team. But nights like tonight are the night when people are going to say, I told you so.
You're right. And it seriously looked like a game where it's in a high school gym and the varsity's playing the freshman team kind of thing. Right. And I'm not even saying that because of the skill and the score and everything. I'm saying that because of like the physicality and stuff. This is another point I'm going to bring up. I have, even at the best of times, I've always said, I want the Cavs to make a move because there are certain teams, many of them the best teams in the league, that they have a deficiency in the matchups with the wings in particular. And I like a lot of the guys on the Cavs. I don't necessarily want to, shed anybody on the team because they've all produced and everything this year. But I do think that when they go up against OKCs and Bostons and Knicks, and we've seen the Hawks, like teams like that, they have a disadvantage on the wing in both in size and physicality and in skill. It's not a knock. The Cavs have 4 all-star caliber players and great role players, but the thing that is the thing that they're missing, the number one thing. And for all the, I put a post up on Reddit a few weeks ago and I got shellacked on Reddit about, do we think the Cavs should make a move? I clipped a couple things about like certain ideas that different people said. Sports Illustrated said they should trade for Jimmy Butler, which is hilarious.
I saw that.
But and some other thing, and I would say the overwhelming majority, 80% or so, said, what are you talking about? They're killing teams. Why would they make a move? Keep it the same. You don't want to interrupt the chemistry on this team tonight. How good do you think the chemistry is in the locker room right now? Like, I mean,
could you see their blank faces when the camera was showing them on the bench?
The easiest way to build chemistry is by winning. and I'm not saying that's the only thing that affects chemistry. Certainly if you like coming to work every day and everything, but like, it's like all of us in our jobs. You can like your coworker so much, but if you're not hitting whatever targets you have at your job, if you're, underperforming, if you're not getting a raise because of it, or you're not getting the next promotion because of it, whatever, eventually that chemistry with your coworkers isn't going to stick around, right? You got to produce results to maintain that chemistry and to improve it. So, well, I think this team is chemistry, and we've talked, chemistry is amazing. And we've talked about how how much they enjoy playing with each other, the vibes, the kind of joking around on the court while also being serious. I really think, I think you should never prioritize chemistry over need.
1,000% agree. And look, I've been one of those people who has very much openly talked about how much I've really enjoyed watching this team because they're a lot of fun. They love playing together, and you can see it. But yeah, I mean, we've also talked about multiple things there. And so you mentioned it. You mentioned just this deficiency against these big wings. You mentioned the, DeAndre Hunters, the Josh Hart's, the OG Ananobis.
You don't even need to look back. Lou Dort dominated this game along with Shea. Yeah. Right? His Shea, obviously, with the scoring and playmaking, and then Lou Dort from a physicality standpoint, like just pushing guys around, like locking everyone up defensively, hitting big threes. Like, he's a perfect example of what the Cavs don't have and what the Cavs are vulnerable against, in addition to like the great scorers like Shea and everything.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Williams also was awesome tonight too. But he's always awesome, so you expect that. But yeah, I mean, right there. I mean, it's kind of this thing where that's where you got to look at a situation. And I don't have an answer at this moment. I'm sure we'll hear more in the next couple of weeks as far as trade deadline targets and buyout targets. But I've made my point loud and clear. I don't know if he's going to be beneficial in a game tonight, like he would have been tonight necessarily. But I do think it's a guy who could help the team. You know who I'm talking about if you listen to our episodes on a weekly basis. But there's got to be, I think an additional wing there because we love Dean Wade. I love Dean Wade.
Yeah.
Dean Wade should probably not be guarding Lou Dort and Jalen Williams in a game like this. Nothing against Dean Wade. He's a great dude. I love him, and he's a really good defender. But athletic versus athletic, not his advantage.
Can I, since you brought up Dean Wade and All-Star Jalen Williams, that's what I call him in OKC since there's two.
And they both started tonight?
Yeah. Fun point. Someone on social media said Dean Wade has the best contract in the NBA because he's making $6 million. He's a starter. He's a high-level role player. I responded, All-Star Jalen Williams makes $2 million less than Dean Wade. So I think that might be the best contract in the NBA.
Yeah, defensive player of the year candidate. Yeah, it's he's pretty awesome. But,
yeah, no, and the other thing, and we're getting it out. Every Cavs fan that watch a game is frustrated.
This is like our Festivus, right?
Yeah, right. This is maybe the first time all year. I would say I went on a long tangent about like the thing that impresses me most with this team is their professionalism, the fact that they come back on back-to-backs and play at a high level. They don't take teams for granted, everything. That was an unprofessional showing tonight from an effort level, from an execution level, from a game planning and coaching level, like top to bottom. That was not only because of the score, but because the way they approached the game, the way they performed in it, the way they, mismanaged their rotations, the way they didn't take advantage of the advantages they should have had. It was so far and away their worst performance tonight. This is worse than losing to, middle of the East teams like the Pacers or the Hawks. Like this is
1,000% agree.
Yeah. This is just really disappointing.
Yeah. And here's the thing I'll say, to be somewhat positive. I won't be, there's no positivities you can
No, please bring it on.
But chances are when you play 82 of these things, you're going to have a night like this. You're going to have a night where you just like are flat and you get shellacked. It's going to happen. But the way that they just, like I said, they no call, no show tonight. They looked like they wanted to be anywhere else at times in this game.
Well, and that's why I started out with the rotation thing, right? Because that's a controllable thing. Sometimes you don't make shots. Sometimes you're lacking. You're trying hard, but you're not executing and things like that. That the adjusting the rotation to basically eliminate Mobley and Allen from the game, from the competitive portion of the game, that is what's most concerning to me, because if they match when they go up against another team with these big wings, that is Kenny going to pull one of that? There is not a team in the league, no matter what the advantage is, that the Cavs are better off with Evan Mobley or Jared Allen on the bench in favor of any of their bench players. Their bench players are great contributors to this team, but Mobley and Allen are all-star level players, and there's never a time. Obviously, you take them out to rest them in normal rotation. There's never a time for strategy. You should pull either of those two guys to put in one of the bench players. Like that was, and it's happened. It happened a few times of the season, but now that it's happened against the Pacers, especially Sunday, even a little bit Tuesday, and then it happened to an extreme measure tonight. That's the most concerning thing, is that, like, do we panic do the Cavs panic in certain matchups and try and, play chess with whatever moves the other team is doing, instead of just like playing their best guys and playing their best rotation and playing like they have all year.
Especially when you take into account that they don't play a lot of minutes already anyway. We talk about this all the time. This is a team that the max you see a guy play is a little over 35. I think Mitchell had one game where he played 38 minutes.
Right. And for those people who say, what are you talking about? It was a blowout. It was a blowout tonight. Of course, they're not going to play much. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland combined for 45 minutes, right? Evan Mobley and Jared Allen did a little over 34. So your star backcourt played 11 more minutes than your big guys, when your big guys should have been the advantage in playing probably the most minutes of anyone tonight, because they should have just like taken advantage of the huge void, like to get run on. And that's the other disappointing thing, is they got run off the floor by OKC and looked like they were just completely outmatched, and they didn't have their two big guys who are in the top 5 best players on their team, both of them. And so that kind of adds to the disheartening night.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing I want to point out too, perimeter wise, like we normally could talk about this Cavs team and be like, man, they're such a good shooting team. I just looked and they shot 31% as a team tonight and 42 threes. And I'm shocked it was above 30% because not looking at the box score during the game, I thought they couldn't hit the side of the barn. But
some of that was the fourth quarter. Like,
yes. Isaac
like
Okoro, 1 of 8. That's going to happen. You're going to have a bad night.
Yeah, Sarah Merrill hit 3 threes. I think all 3 of those were in the fourth quarter. I know Jalen Tyson hit 1. So had you looked at the end of the third quarter, I might be able to get that for you. It was not great.
Yeah. It's just, and that's like, and the game plan there too, because I got multiple text messages from people, and I rarely ever get multiple text messages from people watching a Cavs game, from family members and friends that were just like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of it was like, why are they shooting so many threes? And it's like, normally you're fine with it. But like you said, the adjustments made in the rotation tonight, it made you feel like they had to on the offense at times to kind of be like alive in this game, where realistically, if you go back to tip-off, you didn't have to do this. You could have just kind of taken advantage, like literally made them run a pack line defense and pack it in so you can't feed Mobley and Allen, and then you can dish your perimeter guys. And it was the polar opposite.
Yeah, and you led me into another one of the points I want to talk about, not only tonight, but the last 3 or 4 games, right? We talked about like the Cavs, and I don't know if after tonight, but they were still the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league. And I have said they do not have the best 3-point shooters in the league. They have very good shooters, but they get the best quality 3-point shots because of the penetration, because of Mobley and Allen inside and the kickouts, and the fact that they're playing with pace and beating the defense offset. They're not getting as quality of looks, and they're hitting significantly less threes because of it. And so that's another like thing with, should they make a move or not? Some of the reasons they've had success is been more, scheme and how they play and everything that's bringing out the absolute best of the players. And when they're not doing all of that to kind of elevate the players, and elevate in particular the shooting, you get more nights like tonight. I think this is the like 3rd or 4th out of the last 5 games where they've shot below 32% from 3. And 32% from 3, in case you don't know, would be, I think, 28th in the NBA, maybe 29th. So they're basically going from the best 3-point shooting team most of the season to virtually the worst in the last handful of games.
And hey, don't worry, because right around the corner is a top 10 defense they play on Saturday. Woo!
Yeah, but that defense, yeah, that they're a top 10 defense, but OKC is such, and it's funny, like when the Cavs won, you started out the first 6 or 7 minutes talking about how great OKC is. Sure. OKC wins tonight, and we start talking about how bad the Cavs are. No, so
not taking anything away from OKC, because they are awesome and they're really, really freaking good. I mean, they're so good that Alex Caruso doesn't start for them.
Yeah. He was back tonight. He missed the first game between those teams, and so yeah, I mean, I think the thing about so the Cavs still are in first. They probably didn't include tonight's game yet, but they still are in first at 39.9%, but that's down almost 2.5% the last 2 weeks. That's how bad it has been recently. And I took a guess. So let me see where 32% would be. They would be 29th in the league, just ahead of the Magic, actually. How are the Magic so good? I don't know.
Dude, how are they so good?
Yeah, amazing. But
I love this. I love watching them.
Yeah. But yeah, and tonight is kind of like the cherry on top of, you've been seeing some frustrations over the last 2 or 3 weeks with this team being sluggish. Really, I would say actually the last 10 days since they beat OKC. They came out kind of laid a dud against the Raptors, even though they ended up pulling that game out. Then the back-to-back with Indiana was unimpressive, including losing one, and then tonight. So this has kind of been building for 4 or 5 games now.
Yeah, and you even saw it with Kenny after the first Pacers game, where he was like, "Look, you guys earned this loss. You guys deserve to lose this game, basically." Um, and I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, because Kenny's not that cut deep, but he certainly, is to blame for a lot of tonight as well. But yeah, just a bad night. And the beauty about the NBA is you can turn the page and you got another game in a couple days. You play a Minnesota team who has been extremely disappointing this year on Saturday. They do have one more game before this. They play tomorrow night against the Knicks at the Garden and then come home. So they're going to be on the second game of back-to-back. So I don't know. You maybe have a chance there that maybe they rest a guy or two. But like I said so earlier when I was making the reference, they are sixth in the league in defense. They are really, really good defensively. But offensively, I don't want to say they stink because that's too mean, and they have Anthony Edwards, but they're extremely underwhelming offensively. And, Edwards is awesome. I mean, he's really, really good. I mean, this is a guy that everyone's trying to push to be the next face of the NBA because of his talent, his personality level, and
Sure.
I'm all for it. But this is not the Minnesota team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year, and obviously you can attest that to the Cat trade. But Nas Reed's down from what he was last year. Julius Randle hasn't looked necessarily comfortable yet playing for them if you've watched their games. They're relying on a lot of guys like Rob Dillingham, who they should play more. They're throwing guys out there quite a bit like, Jade McDaniels. I don't know how you feel. I love Jade McDaniels. I would like him on any of my teams.
I like him too. His shooting's pretty down this year, but as a player, I agree with you. I like him a lot.
Yeah. So I don't want to come on here every time we have a loss and say like they should bounce back. Because I don't feel like it's necessarily fair, especially in the NBA. We're talking about professionals. And I understand winning on the road is very hard. But you have a day to watch the film, then hopefully burn it. You have a day to you get a day you get to watch the Timberwolves play against the Knicks team that it's inevitable you could very well face in the playoffs, and see how they play against a good offensive team. You're a good offensive team, so you can kind of see that you have a nice film study, and maybe you get lucky. Maybe Rudy Gobert doesn't play that day. Don't count on it by any means, but this is a game where if you're Cleveland with your time off, you want to bounce back. The trend says you haven't played very well of late, and you're going to see what people say about you tomorrow on these crappy talking head shows. Go do your thing out there and go bounce back Saturday against Minnesota and take care of business.
Yeah, and not just Saturday. Like I said, I was running some numbers as you were going there and talking about the three-point shooting in general. So this is when I'm talking about they went from like the best shooting team in the NBA to it's fallen off for like 7 or 8 games now. So October, only a handful of games. They shot over 41% from 3. November, 40%. December, 42%. January, 35%. And so
still good, but where they've been.
Well, it's not really good. Not in today's NBA. That's bottom half of the league. I mean, 35% would be let's look at let's do some live on air. 35.1%, which is what they are, would be 21st in the league.
This is what I call big Kev journalism.
Yeah, I mean, they just and again, yeah. I don't think it's any particular player. I don't think it's because Donovan Mitchell's been in a slump. I don't think that's the reason. I don't think it's any one player or anything. I think some things are being revealed that if they're not playing this elite system that Kenny's brought in and playing it to high efficiency and getting those wide open shots for their shooters, they're not as good a shooting team. I mean, shouldn't be a shock, but like their shooting is predicated on how good of offense they run, and they haven't run nearly as good of offense in January as they did previously.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. And they're playing a team who hasn't run a good offense all year, and so maybe they can take advantage of that. I really like the Mike Conley, Darius Garland matchup for the Cavs. I really think that's somewhere he can take advantage.
Yeah.
I think this is a game Mitchell can bounce back and really play well. But dude, I mean, you're looking at Evan Mobley's to be guarded by Julius Randle, who oftentimes looks like he'd rather be doing anything else but playing defense. I feel comfortable in saying I think the Cavs should bounce back and win this game. But It's the NBA and anything can happen. and especially it's a weird 9:00 Saturday tip, Cavs time, of course. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and there was so the certain things I'm not as worried about tonight. They were so sloppy with the ball tonight, but that's an anomaly. Like they're actually very good, good like protecting the ball, not having turnovers, especially not having the live ball turnovers, meaning you turn the ball over directly to the other team and then they can go down and score instead of you throw it out of bounds. There's a stoppage in play. You're not giving up a fast break on the other end. So tonight was kind of an anomaly on that. So like I'm focused mostly on how well the offense is running and how how open the shots are that they're getting. And I'm worried about like, yeah, the now it's becoming a tendency to pull out one of your two bigs, usually Jared Allen. Tonight it was kind of both. And when the coaching staff feels a need to match up with the other team. Again, this is the team you built, and it's worked incredibly well sans tonight for the season. You have to lean into this. Like no matter who they're playing, if they're playing Boston and Boston pulls out Porzingis and Horford and is running Tatum as a small ball five, you keep Mobley and Allen out there and you pound it inside. You're going to get beat on the other ends because you're going to have some mismatches on defense. Maybe you go to a zone, maybe you do something like that. And that was the other thing. Like,
they were so reluctant on zone tonight, weren't they?
They didn't mix up anything tonight.
No.
It was almost like are we trying to win this game? Like,
right. I know what you mean,
because like it felt like last week was he threw the kitchen sink and put on a coaching clinic to beat OKC, and the players responded. Obviously, Mitchell had a really bad game, but it was picked up by a lot of teammates that night. And then, tonight, and I can't even find an excuse because they, haven't been traveling as much. Just wasn't on a back-to-back. Like they don't have any injuries that we know of at this time. Everyone was playing. And so yeah, just bummer of a night.
Yeah. Very disappointing night, but like we said, turn the page, burn the tape, play Saturday, get back on track. You come home Monday and you get Phoenix on Martin Luther King Day, a nice little 3:00 game. They're not going to know what to do in the afternoon basketball game now. Come on. They don't know what that's like.
And so that game will be telling because they did just trade for Nick Richards, the Suns, but
I like that trade, by the way.
Yeah, I do too. And they might just throw him in the starting lineup because they have had some of the worst center play in the league this year. Between Nurkic and Plumlee, who's always been a good role player, but he's on the downside of his career, and the other guys. So that is another chance. Not as much Minnesota, but Phoenix. Like that's a game you should take absolutely advantage of using Mobley and Allen, and not worry about if the Suns go small and play Durant as a small ball five or something like that. So there's a lot of things to be frustrated tonight. Some of it you can write off. Some of it that we kind of concentrated on, I think is concerning.
Yeah, for sure. I want to point out one quick thing just before we get out of here. This game against Minnesota is a total sliding doors moment because if Cleveland stumbles the 2019 draft, we're playing against Darius Garland tomorrow. Minnesota wanted Garland so bad.
Yeah.
They ended up with Jared Culver.
Yeah. Where's Jared Culver nowadays?
He was playing in the G League last I saw. So
okay. All right.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Well, I think with that being said, we can wrap up today's block shot stop. It was probably our negative one. We're going to have a couple of these when you do it every game show, but hey, we are not giving up on the Cavs by any means. We still think they're a very good basketball team and we think they're going to be okay. It just was one of those nights where we had to really, really air it out to get everything off our chest. But hey, we'll be back Saturday night. On behalf of Sky the Web Crew, Kevin Lynch, I'm Tim Daniel. Thanks so much as always for tuning in. If you're checking us out for the first time, please subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice or here on the YouTube channel, which we are seeing the growth these last couple of weeks, and we're very, very appreciative of that as well. We have some fun guests coming up. We have a lot of great shows we're adding for you guys, so keep an eye out. You're going to want to be here. We're doing the work. We're very excited about everything. And by the way, they're 34-6, guys. It's going to be okay. So on behalf of Kevin Lynch, this is Tim Daniel. Have a good night, and we'll see you all Saturday night.